Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of TC Talk. My name is Therese, and thanks for stopping by. So I have a rather interesting article and news, I suppose, that I came across my feed couple of days ago, and I wanted to talk about it. I suppose I have a very interesting stance on this, given that this is happening in United States, the state of Virginia to be precise, and I'm Australian. So what I'll do is I'll go through this, and then I suppose I'll give my perspective, because it's about the education system. So I suppose I thought I wanted to, give a lowdown of how my experience growing up through high school, I suppose, in the 90s and the 2000s. But what is this article about? Well, let's just read it. And it is about teaching history and the history of communism, to be more precise. And basically what happened is, in Virginia there were some Democrat politicians which rejected a proposed curriculum which would have talked about the history of communism. And their argument against this bill is because fear of stoking anti-Asian sentiment. Right. So I suppose among other reasons, you may have, back in the time of COVID, come across or been very familiar with, the Stop Asian Hate hashtag. This is kind of connected to that. I do actually have quite a few thoughts about that movement, I suppose, if that's what you want to call it in particular, and how that came about and where it's heading, if it's still, where it is at as it stands today, now in 2023. I suppose that is a topic for another video question. Let's just focus on this, which is, I suppose they didn't want the schools in Virginia to teach about communism. Right, so let's just read on. So, Virginia Democrats have rejected a new bill that would require schools to teach about the dangers of communism after the state's largest teachers' union said the curriculum could encourage anti-Asian sentiments. The bill HB 1816, which was proposed by John Avoli, I apologize, I'm pretty sure that's a shorthand for something, I'm not sure, would have also tasked Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin to issue a proclamation that would designate November 7th as Victims of Communism Day. So that is something that, from what I read, they did they did in 2022. So they had a day which I suppose memorialized, or was set aside for, if anything else, the worldwide victims of communism. That is a whole interesting topic. I'm Chinese, for context on this. So, I mean, nonetheless, we'll skip ahead to this top article. The holiday would have observed in public elementary and secondary schools in Virginia to honor the approximately 100 million individuals who have fallen to the victim to communist regimes around the world, and to be suitably observed by a public exercise in the capital and elsewhere, as governor may designate in such proclamation. So, Emily Yan, a research coordinator for the Virginia Education Association, said her union opposed the bill because 4 out of the 5 current communist regimes are in Asian countries, including China, Laos, North Korea, and Vietnam. We are concerned that this bill would subject Asian American students to anti-Asian sentiments, Yan said. The union also argued that the current curriculum already teaches communism as its history. HB 1816 was reportedly passed by indefinitely along party lines in the state Senate's Education and Health Subcommittee. The bill can still be reconsidered at a later meeting. So, yeah, I suppose that means that, they may try to push it forward again in another meeting. Do I buy this? Do I buy this argument that somehow because currently communist regimes reside in China, Laos, that will somehow stir anti-Asian sentiment in the United States? Well, long story short, I don't. I failed to see her logic in this, and I, ju- I personally think that if you're going to like teach about history, you need to teach it conclusively as a whole. And communism, in connection to World War II and world history, is a very large part of this. And as far as stirring anti-Asian sentiment is concerned, didn't communism start in Europe because of Karl Marx? I just find when I came across this article, I found it very confusing. That's not to, I mean, and I suppose the U.S. education system is a whole nother topic on its own. As far as how they do this in Australia, as far as how my experience, there is a very brief world history, I suppose, and I do recall, I suppose as far as what was mandatory. Once, when I was going through, high school, once you go up year 9, and we have years. I know that in other countries you call them grades, and you have freshmen, sophomores, that designation. In Australia, when we go to high school, we just call them, year 1, kindergarten, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, up to year 12. So up to year 10, I guess starting from year 7, year 8, year 9, year 10, there's history, and I suppose, looking back on it, it's a little bit limited. As in many ways, it probably was particularly very Australian-centric. But when you go into years 11, year 12, you do have the electives to do ancient or modern history for your HSC high school certificate, which I'm not even quite sure whether or not that still exists, to be honest. So yeah, we did learn. I do remember learning about the events that led to World War One, the events that led to World War Two, because Australia was heavily involved with that. The development of communism, not so much. I suppose it was just in connection to the yellow peril, which was happening, I suppose in United States and Australia around the same time. So yeah, but back onto this. I just think that history is history, and if the argument, well, basically, no, I don't understand. If anything, like, I'm sure a great population of a lot of Asian Americans, became Asian Americans because they escaped these regimes in the first place. So what sentiment would we bring? I don't know. I just feel like if you're going to teach about authoritarian regimes, just like fascism and what happened in World War II, you need to teach across the board completely. So I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe I didn't study. I didn't grow up in the United States. Maybe it does. If you guys, anyone that's out there actually knows United States curriculum, can you vouch for this? Because I suppose I'm actually quite curious how much they do teach about this. As far as from us in Australia is concerned, whenever we hear about the United States education system, it's usually not very good, like in comparison to what they teach, in how they how students study in Japan, South Korea, and blah 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 blah. But yeah, so I suppose on the offhand chance that I do have people on the state side that actually watch my channel, I'm grateful that you do. Let me know your thoughts on this, because I'm very curious. But yeah, no, history is history. If you don't learn your history, you're doomed and condemned to repeat it. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on this. I may actually go back on this, because obviously this is very, very you know, wide topic, and I probably have only really just scratched the surface. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I shall see you next time.